Hey YouTube, RicoKnows here. First and foremost, this is not a video about Colorado. Okay, people think it's clickbait and you're going to learn about Colorado in this video. You're not. I'm not talking about Colorado. I'm actually going to talk about North Dakota State. But we needed to bring it up because somebody wrote in this comment here, you can see it, this guy Huddy Tuddy, this is at Trust the Climb on Twitter. He wrote, "I can't wait for a linebacker from North Dakota State with a chip on his shoulder bigger than Mount Everest to snap these dudes in half." And as soon as I saw that, I thought, what would prompt somebody to say this? And it turns out it's Coach Prime telling the team the following. So let's hear what Coach Prime had to say.
We in pads, we having contact. Take care of your guys. Like I'm gonna tell you, do not touch the receivers. Don't get near the quarterback and leave Travis alone. We got that?
Sir.
We understand that?
Sir.
I'm not playing favors, I'm just being 100. It is what it is. When you get to the next level, every quarterback is worth $250 million, right? You think they're gonna let you touch it? All right, so let's play like we're on the next level. We in pads, we having contact.
All right, so Coach Prime comes out and states the obvious. Don't hit the quarterback. Don't touch Travis Hunter or any of the receivers. I think this is a bad look. I don't think you should say this in public. You can talk like this behind closed doors in team meetings, but when you do it out in public with a camera right there just to show out as a coach, like some things are meant to be said behind closed doors. What this does is, unfortunately, it puts a target on some of these players' backs. And it's like bulletin board material or locker room material where somebody's going to hit them and tell them, yeah, should have been getting tackled in practice all day or all year or something to that effect. But it makes sense. Ensure these guys don't get hit, don't get injured when it doesn't matter, and make sure we're in games doing it. So, enough. Cool. I just think Coach Prime makes mistakes like that from time to time where now you can be ridiculed for it. Or, are other teams doing this? For sure, but they don't have to put it on camera and let the world see the flaws that they're talking about, right? There might be concerns about depth at the wide receiver position, and we don't want any of them to get tackled. I think it's a bad look. I think it's actually pretty terrible. You need to tackle some of these receivers. And if a guy's playing both ways, are we not supposed to block him when we're on offense? Because he's a corner. We can't block him. We got to leave him alone? Well, that's weird. It's a run play. He's a corner. We can't touch him. That just seems dumb. Either way, shout out to Colorado. Do your thing. But to address this guy's issue here, this video is really about North Dakota State and having a chip on their shoulder bigger than Mount Everest. I think this is as good a time as any to talk about North Dakota State as a football team and who they are and what they are. Because a lot of people online that I've seen, like the casuals, even people who pretend to know football, they'll say stuff like, oh, North Dakota State, they fell off ever since they lost Chris Kleiman. They don't even know what they're doing. And now they just lost their head coach, Ince. And he's now at USC as a linebackers coach. It's like, yeah, they're not any good. So, listen, I don't watch North Dakota State football all year. I am an FBS expert. I cap games for my gamblers. Shout out to the MVPs on Patreon and YouTube. If you're a member of the Patreon, you're a member of the YouTube, you know I spend 24 hours a day. I spend 16 to 20 hours a day watching film, assessing talent on teams and for matchups and for gambling purposes. And that's how I make a living. Shout out to them. But I don't spend time watching the FCS unless it's the playoffs, unless they're going to play an FBS team. I do look at individual players who hit the transfer portal from the FCS when they go to the FBS, so in the offseason. But during the season, I don't have time to watch FCS football. And that's no shade at them. I'm just busy with my business model. When I watch FCS football, it's usually the offseason or the playoffs. And I don't miss the FCS playoffs because that's the elite of the elite, and it's great football, right? I remember 2 years ago, I was screaming at everybody. The game of the year was Incarnate Word versus Sacramento State, and everybody told me I was wrong. And I said, go watch it. It's for free. It's 2022, Incarnate Word, Sacramento State. Go watch it. It's on YouTube. You can watch the whole damn game. It's amazing. Game of the year. And they're like, no, what about Alabama versus Tennessee? I'm just like, bro, keep it in perspective. You guys are so wrong. That being said, I've had ample time this offseason to study North Dakota State. I need to know what they look like. And the first thing that intrigued me about North Dakota State is the spread. The spread is 8.5 points with Colorado. The reason that's intriguing is it's an equivalent spread that South Dakota State is getting with Oklahoma State. Now, South Dakota State's the the FCS national champ, and they just won back-to-back national championships. Now they lost a number of great players. Shout out to McCormick and Davis and all these other guys. They lost a number of great players to the NFL draft. I wish Jules got drafted, but they lost a number of great players, and they're still 8.5-point underdogs to a team in Oklahoma State that I think is far superior to Colorado. I think Oklahoma State's the bee's knees. Big 12 runner-up last year, and they return everybody. And when I look at them on tape, Oklahoma State looks like a much more developed product. Like they just do. They just look like they have great players. There's not a single offensive lineman at Colorado that could start at Oklahoma State. Not a running back. Brendan Presley's going to be open every play. I'm telling you, Oklahoma State is world's best. And then the Oklahoma State linebackers are the best linebackers in the Big 12. They got NFL linebackers that are just so amazingly talented. There's a kid in the middle. I'm forgetting his number right now, but he's just so athletic. Like he just runs like a 4.40 as a middle linebacker. He's everywhere. It's crazy. He's running down superstars. But anyways, so when I see the national champs get an 8.5-point spread against Oklahoma State, I actually like Oklahoma State in that matchup because I think they're so superior. So when I look at Colorado getting 8.5 points, or the Bison getting 8.5 against Colorado, I'm like, whoa, hold up. Colorado is not the same caliber as Oklahoma State. And the Bison are the same caliber as South Dakota State. They really are. Like the Bison lost 3 games last year. 3 games. 1 in double overtime to Montana in the semifinals. They lost to South Dakota State in the regular season, and they lost the rivalry game to North Dakota. Outside of that, they scored over 30 points in every other game. 8 games, over 30 points. This is an explosive offense. And I just look at them, I'm just going, man, they're getting 8.5 points against Colorado? That's crazy. They're really good. So let's talk about it, man. If I go by position, quarterback is Cam Miller, been a starter for 3 years now. He's a dual-threat quarterback. He's kind of gutsy. His completion percentage is so high. A lot of it had to do with his receivers last year. I really like Zach Mathis, 6'7", wide receiver. He's gone. Eli Green hit the transfer portal. He's now at Iowa State. So this really helps them out that these guys are gone. This really helps out Colorado immensely because if Eli Green was still there, whew, they're really cooking. But Eli Green went to Iowa State. He just hit the transfer portal late. And Cam Miller doesn't have the strongest arm. He also is not the most fleet of foot. He is a dual-threat quarterback. But a lot of it is derived upon play action, and you got to respect the run game. You got to respect the way they do their play action. They attack the edges, and it's beautiful. 72 and 77 on the offensive line. So, I watch tape. I numbers, guys. Numbers are everything. When you watch film, it's numbers. And then I go back and look for the players, and I apologize. I don't know their names off the top of my head. I don't have the depth chart up here. But 77 and 72 on the left side just demolish people. And I think 72 was a freshman. But they just demolish people. They look very, very good. Okay? The guy I want to talk about is Cole Payton, though. Cole Payton's the backup quarterback. And you see it here, he didn't play much. Cole Payton comes in the game as like a goal line running back. He's 6'3", 220. You see it down here. Led the team in rushing touchdowns, 13, tied with Cam Miller. But the quarterbacks had 26 rushing touchdowns between the two of them. This is play action. This is Wildcat. This is just let Cole Payton run people over. And the reason I have to bring this up is just yesterday, Baraka, Keanu, the starting running back this year. He was the backup last year, but he's a starter. He's good. He's a good running back. You know who these running backs remind me of? Is like Cam Carroll at Georgia State. That's what they remind me of. One cut backs, not multi-cut, just one cut and go. So Baraka, he just had a knee injury, and now he's questionable for the game against Colorado. And I know everybody's celebrating. They're like, hey, yay, they lost their starting running back. I don't know if that really makes a difference. I really don't. And I mean, it does. You want to be 100%. But TK Marshall's the backup running back. TK Marshall's a senior. He's been here the whole time. TK Marshall's been lifting weights, doing everything with the Bison. He's got over 1,000 rushing yards in his career, averaging over 6 yards a carry. TK Marshall's a complete running back, and he's a good receiving threat out of the backfield. I don't see a huge drop-off with TK Marshall in the game. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, that guy can run. And it doesn't matter. They're in the red zone. They're using their quarterbacks play action. Okay? Receivers, I think, is the biggest concern for them. But I got news for you guys. Eli Green leaving hurts. Graduation, Zach Mathis hurts. Rajon Nelson and Braylon Henderson, they're both about 5'9". Fast as hell. I think Braylon Henderson might be the fastest guy on this team. I don't know. I haven't talked to the players. I haven't really checked to see whose speed is what. But on tape, Braylon Henderson will absolutely dust Travis Hunter. Absolutely dust that 4.5 40 of Travis Hunter. There's just no way. You got to run a zone, because if you're trying to run man and they run that slant and that drag all the way across the field, the way I see it on tape, no corners running with Braylon Henderson. You're going to try to jam these little guys. You have to. Rajon Nelson, Braylon Henderson. They are fast. Blazing fast. I saw somebody write, well, why didn't these guys transfer to better schools if they're so good? They have a really good culture. They have a really good NIL deal. They have a really good development. They believe in their coaching staff, and they're putting guys in the NFL. They're putting players in the NFL. So why leave? Cody Mock, NFL. Draft picks. At the FCS level, it's pretty amazing. And they're still amazing. They're still really good. You lose to the two teams in the national championship, and you want people to think they fell off? Come on, man. Receivers are great, but let's talk about it. Joe Stofill is going to ruin everybody's dreams. I think Joe Stofill's going to be open. I think the play action, he's like 6'4", 230. Big guy, and he's just open. And he's just catching passes. That dude's a baller. Like, I expect him to have an amazing game against Colorado. I think it's a mismatch. I really do. Joe Stofill looks like he's open out every play. Between him and Carson Williams is the other tight end. Now, they don't throw to him much. But these guys, not only are they so respected in the blocking game, I really think Joe Stofill is going to be open. I expect him to get 50 receptions this year. I just think he's open all the time. Really good. Let's go to defense. I say Cole Wisniewski, but it's Wisniewski. How do you say it? Niski? I don't know, bro. I'm going to call him Cole. Now, Cole's not a linebacker. Maybe he is. He's a safety. He's a defensive back. Cole led the team in tackles, led the team in interceptions with 8 of them. Let me not get ahead of myself. I've already talked about Braylon Henderson, who I think is the fastest player on the team. I already talked about Raja, who's also really good. Moved to number 3, by the way. Cam Miller, Bareka, Cole Payton, TK, I already told you. Here's Cole. Cole's 31. Look at all these accolades, bro. First team All-American. First team preseason All-American FCS. 8 interceptions last year. 6'4", 220. Not the fastest guy, but plays amazing football. The number 1 rated PFF safety, regardless if you're in the FBS or FCS, he's the number 1 guy. You got to account for him on the field. He knows what he's doing. High IQ. Dude's so mature. Dude's married and he's out here balling. You know who they remind me of? They remind me of BYU when all those guys go on missions. They got players who have been in the program for a really long time. And this man has been starting since his freshman year. I remember he had a pick 6 in the playoffs, I believe. You go watch the highlights. He doesn't look like a blazing fast guy, but this is a good football player. This is a problem. If you thought Jack Howell and Henry Blackburn at Colorado State were nice, and they're both returning this year, these dudes are very similar, and it's not just because they're white. It's just they're blue-collar, hard-nosed hitting guys. And Cole's one of them dudes. Cole's a baller. He's not getting off the bus intimidated. I'm letting you know. Another guy that sticks out on tape, Sam Jung, number 35 here. He's everywhere. Sam Jung, former walk-on. his dad was a 2-time All-American in Division III football. He's got 2 brothers that play college football. Sam Jung can play, man. Finally got in the starting lineup. Finally did really well. I'm very impressed with Sam Jung on tape. Middle linebacker Nick Cubits. Just looks like a damn Viking. Got long hair. I don't know if it sticks out of his helmet. There you go. Long hair. 6'3", 230, cracking people in half. That's the dude with the chip on his shoulder. Cracking folks. From Iowa. Cracking people. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Logan Kopp is the young guy who is going to be special. I think he's going to be an NFL linebacker someday. He is 6'1", 220. He's a FCS freshman All-American back in 2022. Last year, he was second on the team in tackles. It doesn't say it down here, but I'm telling you he was. And three interceptions, 3.5 sacks. Very good player. Pops on tape. Shout out to 43. Those are those blue-collar linebackers that you keep telling your receivers not to get tackled at practice. These dudes are going to knock the snot out of your nut. And you guys know what I'm talking about. If you've ever played football and you get them snot bubbles after a hit, bro, whether you're laying the hit or you're taking it, you know what happened. You got your bell rung. Eli Mostert here, the Mostert twins, they've been here a while. When did they get here? 2019? Mostert twins, I believe he's an All-American. Eli is. Beast. And that's just the thing. If you go look and you watch tape on North Dakota State from last year, I'm watching tape. There's a guy named Kava. He graduated. You're lucky. 7 sacks. He's gone. There's another defensive tackle. Javier Darrett is now starting at Kansas. He just transferred to Kansas. Dude's a beast as well. So the defensive line is just so developed. And it's not a bunch of cast-offs from the Power Fours. It's dudes who've been lifting weights and being developed in this program. And they're good enough to start at Power 4 schools if they felt like transferring. Shout out to Darrett, who did. But he's got teammates that are first-team All-Americans that are still here. Another exciting one is Hendricks. And I used his picture on this guy right here, Dylan Hendricks. I use his picture on Twitter as a joke, but it is what it is. This is the type of dude the left tackles, the tackles, period, at Colorado aren't ready for. There's no way. 6.5 sacks last year. He's 6'3", 249 Singer. He was injured, missed season due to injury, right? Sat out, red shirt or whatever. Dude, I turn on his tape in high school. He's playing in a wing T offense. He's a running back in high school. Running back. I think he's number 25, if I remember correctly on the tape. He rushes for like 2,800 yards his senior year in Wisconsin. 2,800 yards. And his career yards are over 6,000. It's nuts. He's the 4th all-time leading rusher in Wisconsin high school history as a running back. And then they get him, and they're like, yo, we're going to move you to defensive end. And now he's 6'3", 250. This is Derrick Henry playing defensive end. Like, that's, how do I describe it? Now, he's not that athletic. He's not that fast, but he's very nice. He's a problem. You're trying to deal with him? He's a problem. And I look forward to somebody like this. Hold the ball just a little too long. Wait for your guy to get open. Just a little too long. This is the dude that's gonna tear your head off. Dylan Hendricks, baller. 2nd team All-American, by the way. 2nd team FCS All-American. Preseason. There's Eli Mostert. Beast. Joe Stoffel. I just talked about him. The tight end. 6'4", 245. That's a bad dude. Joe is a bad dude, bruh. I don't worry about none of this stuff. I don't care about none of this. Dude is a baller. Baller. Love everything about him. From Wisconsin. Looks like it. I like this guy. He's good. He's going to be on my deep sleepers tight end list for the NFL draft. Yeah, he'll be on my deep sleepers tight end list. I'm letting you know now. His backup is Carson Williams, excuse me. Pretty good. Same size. Pretty good player. These guys block well. And there's the other Mostert twin. I just wanted you guys to understand that this is a program. And I understand they have a new head coach. He's been the offensive coordinator the whole time. Like, it's not like he's coming from outside and doesn't know what to do. They need to put it all together. But giving them 8.5 points, I think, is very generous. And it's a bet you have to take. It's a bet you have to take. You have to take North Dakota State to cover that spread out of sheer understanding that you're looking at a 4-win team in the FBS, doesn't have any continuity, new coordinators that have no historical knowledge of what they're facing. And understand what I'm saying. When you're a defensive coordinator and you're in conference, you know the other offensive coordinators. And if you've been there for multiple years, you know their play calling tendencies. You know what they're going to do. You get a better feel for who they are. And in your first year in conference play, you might be overwhelmed because you don't know the other opposition. Now, you might have defense and offensive analysts, sure. I don't know. I mean, I do know who they are. I'm just saying it's different when you're coming from the NFL and you don't know these guys. When you're coming and it's your first year in a coordinator position, you don't know the tendencies of what you're up against. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. And I think North Dakota State's tight ends are going to be open. I think Cam Miller and Cole Payton are just tough as fucking nails. And that offensive line looks gelled. They really do. And when you take an offensive line, you take offensive linemen from UTEP, UConn, Indiana, Houston, like North Dakota State can beat all those teams. North Dakota State could beat all those teams last year. So you took players from teams, and that's great, but they couldn't beat this team. I don't think you guys understand, man. I don't think you understand. These guys look like they could beat Vanderbilt. You thought New Mexico State blew out Auburn, and that's a shock to you? These guys look great on tape, man. They look like grown-ass men. They're developed, and the only games they lost to was the greatest FCS team of all time in South Dakota State, and then a double overtime to Montana, right? Was Montana in the semis? I got news for you guys. Montana State, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, those 4 teams, they can beat anybody. Like, they can go out there and do it. They're that good. When I assess the talent, I'm like, holy shit. This is not a feel-good story. This is not me. Rico doesn't know. Bro, I know your favorite team better than you. Last year, I told you guys Colorado State wide receivers were going to have a field day against the Colorado defensive backs. They did. I knew the roster better than you. I know this roster better than you. North Dakota State Bison. I like them to cover the spread. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Stay up, y'all.